Alright, hello. Today I'm gonna teach you guys how to bring your builds from that garbage to something a little bit better.
Alright, so here I'm just putting down some basic outlines, When you build outlines in your builds, you usually want like a transition of wood most of the time because it just makes it look better. So yeah, just being able to put some outlines on there. Windows are very necessary. I don't know why I was keeping jungle wood here. I think I just forgot, but as you can see, the house is already looking good just from building these simple outlines. So when I put down the transition of color, it makes, when you're trying to build something tall like this, it makes it feel like your building is actually going up when you add in lighter colors as you go up or darker colors as you go up. It can go either way. It just looks better with lighter colors in my opinion. So here I start adding more windows. And then for this part I finally noticed that I was using jungle wood. So I swapped that out for spruce, which looks pretty nice. Then here I try some trims. This is always good if you have a bigger build. But for this build it just didn't fit. So I swapped it back. And I started building the second layer above the windows. This is very good to have a second layer above the window, because when you have a second layer above the window like this, it makes it a lot easier to do the roof, and the roof doesn't cover the windows, which is a common mistake I see people making. So when you do your roofs, make sure they look like this, instead of just like all over the place when it comes to size. So I'm just going to speed through this roof build, and I'm going to leave it to you guys. What you see happening here is I'm just putting stairs below the stairs. Makes your builds pop a lot more. And the extra slab also helps with that a lot. So I recommend adding an extra slab and an extra stair, just like 2 extra slabs underneath 1 slab. If you're doing like a roof like this and you kind of made it a little bit like not perfectly sized, so you don't have the stair that adds together. But you can see it here. So here goes another window. Right now the house looks pretty basic. You can't really tell that it's gonna look amazing at the end. So there we go, we got the roof now. I was thinking about adding a chimney, but I decided to do something else. If you want a tutorial on how to do chimneys, it will be very quick though. So here I try and add back in those trims I talked about earlier. They don't really work out, from what I can remember. Or maybe I leave them in, I'm not sure. Oh, I do leave them in. I just checked my footage. But here you just add in some trapdoors and buttons. It just makes it really pop. So you can just tell. And then trapdoors at the bottom of these logs like this adds in the illusion of strength and the ability to hold something up. So here you just add in some buttons and some trapdoors, just repeat it, and it looks really nice. You can see other builders, not just me, using this in their builds. It's just very useful when it comes to this. And one thing that I like to follow as a rule is just always having something interesting being displayed on the build at all times. This is very important because displayed at all times, you can make the build really pop. So here I try to implement some type of little like outdoor area, you know. And I grab birch. You can see a trend here. First it was jungle wood, now it's birch. And then I quickly notice and I swap it out. But this could be something you guys could do. I didn't personally like it for this build, but for bigger scale things, let's just show how tiny details can make something look good. So like, I could have done some other things here with this build, but this is just some simple leaves. You can see these in the final design I showed earlier in the video. And if you're building your leaves like just plain leaves, you're doing it a bit wrong. So you can see here just tweaking around with it, and I add some moss, since moss really just adds a really good pop to the leaves when you have it. So I'm just gonna skip through a little bit of talking for a minute. So you can see I add in all this moss, and this moss just gives more aesthetic to the build. You can also tell how like some stuff is gonna look. You can see this is where I start to change this into the farm that you see in the final design. The farm does not have a back, in case you were wondering, by the way. But this takes me a good few minutes just to get this built. So yeah, but it does come out looking pretty good. This is sped up footage, so I don't normally build this quickly. This is sped up by a little bit, just to keep the video interesting for you guys. So here you can see there are some little open spots of dirt and whatever. And I try and fill those in as much as I can here. But my hope is, since I don't want to do the back of this hill, it's just to give the illusion that it's complete, which I do pretty well here. And then I just add in a bit of water. And I hoe all the land, so it looks pretty good. And then I just grab some carrots here. These carrots, in my opinion, are one of the best little vegetables to use. Then here, this is a really good tip. If you're building like a farm area like I was, just having something that has like a little bit of a trim is very useful. I get a little bit stuck here since I don't know what to do. Trapdoors. But eventually I figure something out. Here, as you can see, just do a lot of troubleshooting. And it kind of turns out how I would hope for it to turn out. And here I just add a little path heading up the hill, just so you can reach the rest of the vegetables, just to add a bit of realism. And I use pick block. Pick block is a very useful tool if you're trying to get like certain blocks from your build that you already used or something similar like that. Pick block can really come in handy. But this video is trying to explain how you can turn a villager house into something way nicer, like this. And I change a few things with the farm, but I start off with bone mealing all of this carrot here, so that it just gives that aesthetic of just like being fully grown carrots, like a farmhouse kinda. You could also put a windmill on the house. That can be very useful sometimes. And here, I'm assuming I get rid of this wood here, which is what I hope I do, because it's not looking the best with the wood around. But here you'll see me put some vegetation around, and I break the tall grass here, because tall grass just doesn't really work most of the time, and it can get in the way when you're trying to enter your home. Then here I just add a little pathway with some random little splotches. So when you do like your roofs, not your roofs, your pathways, this can really just come in handy, because you're just putting some gravel or something. If you're on survival, I would recommend using gravel instead of rooted dirt. But if you're in creative, go ahead and use rooted dirt. It looks really nice. So I like to use a mix of dirt, gravel, and sand, since it just really comes together, as you can see here. And even in the final reference, it looks good. And you just kind of gotta add in some randomness to it, so that you keep the patterns interesting, and just keep the build interesting overall, which is why you add the signs and everything. And the number one rule you have to follow when you're building is keep every little bit of the build, every little bit, interesting. If it's not interesting, it's just gonna look bad, and you don't want things to look bad. When something looks bad, you get disappointed in yourself. When you're disappointed in yourself, you get depressed, which is a very bad combination. So do me a favor and make your builds look good. But here I just add in some simple bookshelves. Bookshelves make everything look better. If you don't believe me, just put some in your house that doesn't have any. And here I just put some slabs on the bottom, because it just gives the illusion of a bookshelf there, which is very useful. And you always want to replace the bottom bit of your door, because it's just, when you go into your house and you look at the floor, it just looks really ugly. And so just keeping that consistency there with the floor of the actual house. If you're indenting it into the actual house, so it's kind of like, in the wall a bit, you can do that and just keep the grass block there, but it depends on what style you're going for. I know a friend who keeps them indented in the walls. So here I just push shift and space bar, which lets me place the heads like this without flipping the trapdoors. And the heads really just give that aspect of someone actually living there, So when you give that aspect of it, it can really make a big change in how the build goes through. So here I'm doing something I don't know, so I'm probably just gonna, here we go, we're back. But here I just add in some simple carpet, and here's an extra bit of detail you can use. It's a little uneven, but you can add a red wool underneath. I use red here because it's non-biased, a non-biased color, and you see it in the village houses. So when you see it in the village houses, it kind of comes together. So here I just add in some barrels, since they stack, they're stackable, and that for the most part finishes the build. There are a few other things I may do to this, but it looks pretty good overall. Can't really say this looks bad. And this is the finished product. So as you can see here, it's just how it looks. Looks great. And here I just take a thumbnail, because I need a thumbnail, obviously. But this is a very simple house you can make. You can also apply the same rules to building houses to other houses. If you want a tutorial on roofs, or just something like other tutorials, but this is really basic. And here I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys a world that has some previous projects on it, so you guys can see it. Alright, so that previous house that I just showed you has some, like, that blue house that I just showed you has most of the same things that this one has. I didn't finish the back or anything of it, which is why it's less fancy and all that. Ignore the not finished Coliseum, by the way. But, yeah, that's the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. This is the house we built together. So yeah, just apply the same things you guys learned from building this tiny house to bigger houses, and eventually your builds will start to look a lot better, and you'll improve. This house took about an hour just to decorate, so be prepared to make, like, decently sized houses whenever. So yeah, be prepared to spend the time if you want to build something that looks very good. And please subscribe, please like and subscribe, do all that stuff, all those shenanigans, and I will see you guys later.